Hello there guys and welcome back to the channel. It's time to talk about the Gladiator circuit meta. Right, and I know that this meta has definitely divided opinions. There are people who really hate it, and there are people who find it actually quite fine and nice and interesting. I lie somewhere in the middle of it. I don't hate the meta, particularly myself, but is this a meta I want to play an entire month? I don't know. That said, let's break down the nodes and go over my personal MVPs thus far. And obviously, you guys are more than welcome to weigh in as well. So we're going to start with the more important nodes of Scrap Wars. Whenever the attacker is inflicted with an armor break, the defender gains an armor buff, increasing their armor rating by 20% for 10 seconds. Whenever the defender is inflicted with an armor break, the attacker gains armor buff. Same thing. And then we have Rust and Ruin that ensures you will get inflicted with armor break. So when the defender is struck, 40% chance to inflict armor break on the attacker, reducing their armor rating by 25% for 10 seconds. If the attacker has 5 or more of these armor breaks active on them, they are consumed and turned into indefinite armor break debuff. This is the reason why the fights are so difficult, why the chip damage is so large, why Inequity and Despair Masteries are wrecking some champions. Then we have Divine Barrier to limit and stop Mystic champions, which, does do a fine job. It is much harder to use some of the Mystic champions that do rely on nullification and stagger and fate seal effects. But you can still play around this as well. And we have Extend. The defender's buffs and debuffs inflicted last 150% longer. This is actually a major node here as well, because any unstoppable opponent triggers, for instance on Gladiator, is going to last forever, or on Thing, and any debuffs that you get placed on you last forever as well. So it is a fairly tricky meta. I personally do find it quite enjoyable still, quite fun, but that said, we need to go over the MVPs, right? So let's get to that and kind of separate them by class. In Science class, I think Photon is still doing amazing job because number one, defensively, obviously any chip damage that she inflicts is going to get felt even more because there's no willpower or anything of the sort, and defensively she seems to be doing better than normal. And then in addition to everything else, offensively, because she does have a lot of attack modification in her kit with those 5 Furies, she seems to be doing just fine as well. On her heavy attack, she does have the Sunder debuff that reduces opponents, crit resistance to 0, so she can crit decent-ish amount of time. Plus, obviously, she's reversing opponent's willpower heal. And yeah, she just seems quite solid as a Science Champion to way Science Champ. We have Jessica Jones. It's definitely a problem in this meta because she ramps up super fast because as defender, she gains investigation charge when opponent is inflicted with an unstun debuff, which arm breaks do account for. So basically, a ton of champions are just unable to fight Jessica Jones in any capacity because she ramps up immediately. And that is how you typically dealt with Jessica Jones in majority of the cases, by nuking her down before, she gets her max ramp up. And Void is another champ that has been a defensive menace because you're all but guaranteed to take a damage unless you're using arm break immune champion. But most of the arm break immune champions are Mystics, and even Mystics do not have too great of a time against Void. So Void is pretty much a guaranteed damage, and because of armor ups, he's tankier. In skill class, Crossbones is one of the MVPs, especially if you do have a high Sig Crossbones, because then he can, purify the arm break debuffs, and then once he gets the Furies, he's reducing the ability accuracy of the opponent, so you don't get as many arm breaks, and in short, Crossbones are doing a very good job if you do have one high Sig. Mallman has been quite solid for me as well. Obviously, it is quite a bit easier to ramp him. Unfortunately, he does get affected quite a bit by the Inequity Mastery, but still the guaranteed crits, he's decent both offensively and defensively, because now if you do trigger, he's unstoppable. It's going to stay there for a bit as well. And if you do get any debuffs placed on you by him hitting you, that's going to hurt a lot. Black Cat offensively is amazing because she reduces opponent's defensive ability accuracy. That's one, so you don't get many armor breaks, so you don't need to worry about Inequity Mastery reducing your damage as much as you do with other champions. And then the second bit is the node has a chance trigger per hit, which lets Black Cat fail abilities in every matchup, basically. and therefore she pauses all her bleeds. So she does how many more matchups than she otherwise would, where she does great. Now, Tuma, that is still doing great on defense, and obviously this time around you can also use him somewhat better as an attacker, where you can just heavy and get rid of the armor breaks and ramp him up faster. It's quite useful. In Mutant class, Dust seems to be excelling right now because she's an absolute menace on defense with her glancing, number one, but also inflicting debuffs on you that last 150% longer. Almost guarantees that she will enter Sandstorm unless you play perfectly, and without a couple of very dedicated counters, she's an absolute monster to tackle. Given that with her immunities and the fact that tech class is heavily gimped in this meta, Dust is a real problem for now. Then we have Domino. Again, it's more, not that Domino is doing anything crazy in this meta, it's much more that tech class is significantly more gimped, and a lot of popular Domino counters just don't work in this meta. For instance, Red Skull as an attacker. Next up, we have Onslaught. And again, Onslaught just seems a lot tankier in between the Inequity Mastery, in between all of those armor ups that he gets. He definitely does seem a lot tankier on defense and is a big problem. And then offensively, he also is putting in plenty of work because of the way he distributes damage. Cosmic Ghost Rider from the Cosmic class is a crazy good attacker, obviously. He does still, have to deal with an equity mastery and getting armor broken, but that doesn't hurt him too much. And on the bright side, it is easier to collect these judgments because as you are going to be armor breaking your opponent with your special 2 or at the beginning of the fight against villains or when your damnation expires, you will be getting armor ups, which will be fulfilling your judgment clause as well. So CGR is great. Galen is a monster in this meta, both defensively and offensively, because as you are using Galen, he ramps up insanely fast, so he can nuke most of the champions in game with the single harvest once you max ramp him. And then defensively, when you're using a champion that is, not specifically designed to counter Galen, you're pretty much immediately going to be dead, because as you're going to be striking him, you're going to get armor broken, then Galen's going to get armor up buffs, and that's going to ramp him up faster, and then you're just going to die because he keeps getting buffs. Serpent is so bad in this meta. In this meta, it's pretty much, unless you have Chavez, throw it down. Because most of the Serpent counters suck right now, or don't do well enough job to take down Serpents. It's just what it is. With increased buff duration, his power gain is off the walls. Kushala is struggling against him as well, with the Mystic Node gimping some of the Mystic champions further. Man, Serpent is just the worst. Honestly, Serpent's so bad in this meta. Half the time when I see opponent drafting Serpent, I just kind of throw it around. Because, again, unless it's like Chavez, you're pretty much dead. And then in Cosmic class, we obviously have the Cheese Master, Ronan. I have seen even 5-star rank 5 ascended Ronans ranked up and putting in work. The man's crazy good at this meta because of all the armor ups. When you're not critting, you're going to be doing no damage, but when you do crit, you're going to be doing a ton of damage. And you obviously infinitely stunlock the opponents. Herc works quite well both ways in this meta because of his precisions from level 1. You can bypass the armor and then you can get a ton more damage on your level 2. So level 1, level 2 rotation is going to destroy just about anybody. And defensively, his immortality lasts forever, like 20 some seconds. So unless you have a way to get rid of it or bypass it, Herc is going to stall the fights out crazy long. Fam is one of the worst champions to fight against in this meta, without a question. Extra armor ups, tons of glancing. He's still one of the few techs that's usable offensively as well. And yeah, he's just a menace. I really hate going up against Fam in this meta. It's so goddamn hard and annoying. Fam is a bust. And the AI doesn't make it easier either. Man, I hate Fam, but he's definitely an MVP defender. Shuri, one of the few techs that still work solid offensively because she doesn't get completely screwed by armor breaks. So definitely keep an eye out for your Shuri as well. Then we have America Chavez, one of the best offensive champions in this meta. Again, when she does crit, she's going to crit for tons of damage. When she doesn't, it's going to suck a bit. But also the fact that she's getting stronger, the more opponent has their buffs active, you know, it just helps a lot. She just works like a maniac in this meta. One of the most valuable draft picks. Now, Absorbing Man, obviously, basically an immediate and very quick ramp. You don't need to bother light intercepting, none of that stuff. You just want to drop your heavy and chain your special into it, and you're going to be doing tons of damage. And then when those armor ups are going to start expiring, sorry, they're not getting the armor ups, but still, he just ramps up super fast, is the point. He ramps up very, very fast, and he's kind of back. You do want, ideally, him ascended. Unfortunately, I don't have him. Sasquatch is miles more tanky in this meta, and the reason for that, obviously, is number one, if opponent gets Unbreaking, they still get their damage reduced by Inequity. Number two, you still have his original damage reduction with his Wrath of Tanrak charges, and then armor ups are making him even further tankier. So he's a massive, massive pain. And Kushal absolutely cooks in this meta because she does have tons of buffs that she can convert into Incinerates, and Kushal is putting in incredible amount of work. Obviously, there are other champions who are still working very well, especially in skill class. Kate is still crazy good. Shang-Chi is an amazing champion for this meta. We still have, you know, Valkyrie, even though I'm not using Valkyrie because of the AI issues, similar to Massacre, both of them. Well, especially Valkyrie should be doing very well. Then we have Hitmonkey, who bypasses a lot of the armor issue with his crits. We have Bullseye being again super annoying. We have Zemo, so skill class is kind of reveling here. And even in science class, we still have like Spider-Ham, who's thriving both on offense and defense, and a handful of other champions. So let me know what you guys think about this meta in general, and how well you are doing in the Gladiator circuit. These, again, have been my MVPs. I will show you guys my deck very briefly, such as it is now, but I will probably edit it slightly and then upload a special video discussing how each champion is doing. But I kind of already explained, and in short, most of the champions that I listed here as MVPs are already in my deck as well. Dragon Man is one of the champions I thought was going to be doing better than he is, so I might actually replace him quite soon. I might also take out my rank 3 Red Skull, because he's great on defense still, but offensively he's quite useless, and I did like his duality factor. Hulkling hasn't been necessarily the best for me, similarly to Mr. Sinister for this meta in particular. Tigra I just added back in the deck because I do need some other options against Serpent, because Serpent is destroying absolutely everything. So here we are. Let me know what you guys think, and I will catch you guys soon. Bye-bye. Hello there, guys, and welcome back to the channel. So we have all